Hello and welcome. I'm the Dr. Bob Lee. Welcome to Open. Our first guest is from the New York City Campaign Finance Board and joins us with lots of information on the upcoming elections. You got to be in it to win it. You got to be in it to win it. Exercise your right to vote. She's from the voting board, and we welcome Sabrina Castillo.
Thank you so much for having me. And like you said, you got to be in it to win it. And this is an important election coming up. And it's such an important time to be having this conversation.
No.
So thank you for having us.
For those who don't think that elections are important or their vote doesn't count, explain.
Well, I think never, like we have seen, at least in our generation, how elected leaders are making life or death decisions for us. And if we don't vote, we're letting other people decide who those leaders will be and how they will create the change that we're asking for or not created. So voting alone is not sufficient to create the systemic change that is being called out for. There are many ways to be civically engaged, but voting is an essential step in that process. And we do have a primary coming up for local races and the presidential primary as well.
And who's on the ballot?
So in New York, we'll be having primaries, Democratic presidential primaries. Also, critical primaries coming up are for Congress, state legislator, and some municipal offices. So depending on what city or district you live in, your primary will look a little different. And so the best thing to do is to get ready for June 23rd and figure out, one, do you have a primary? But if I just take a step back, you want to first thing is go on voting.nyc and check if you're registered to vote. If you're registered to vote, that's one step. Then for each primary in New York, we don't have open primaries, so you need to be registered in that political party. So if you're registered in a political party and they are having a primary, then you're able to vote. And you'll be able to see the different seats that are coming up in your particular area.
Yeah. How's the coronavirus epidemic or pandemic affecting people coming out to vote?
Well, it is really created and really challenged New York to step it up. And so I think that some of the biggest measures that have happened went along with the executive order that Governor Cuomo put out, which is that everyone can vote by mail. Essentially, that is the absentee voting process that New York has had,
Yeah.
except for now, you can just click or put in there, if you're doing it by paper, you can put temporary illness. And if you're doing it online, you can just click temporary illness as your excuse to be able to be voting. So now everyone who is registered to vote might have received the application already. You can fill that out, or you can go online and do it. And Bob, it takes 2 minutes. The website is web friendly on your phone, and you'll be able to just do that. And you do need to request your absentee ballot before June 16th.
June 16th. Oh, okay.
I think the best thing to do right now is to look at what are your options. You have more options than we've ever had in New York. Just last year, early voting came in, and now we have this vote by mail system for this particular primary. And so what you really want to do is prepare, make a plan. Are you going to vote by mail? If so, you need to request an absentee ballot. Or are you going to vote early? There's some preparation in that if you want to go out and vote in person. And of course, follow all city guidelines, which is wear masks. You can take other precautions as wearing gloves, and the Board of Elections will also be taking its own precautions.
Yeah. Are the machines working? We had that big problem out there in Georgia. Is everything okay? No long lines? We can just go and vote? People don't have to worry?
You want to be able to prepare for that. So the best thing that you can do is make sure that you figure out what works best for you, for your family, for your health. So you want to be able to request your absentee ballot. That's one way to avoid that. The other is to go vote early.
So on the ballot, you have the U.S. House, congressional special elections. You got the state Senate, state assembly. I said state assembly, the state legislative, local judges, state ballot measures, school boards, and municipal.
Yes. In particular, in municipal, Queens will be having a special election amongst others that are going on. And a lot of the changes that people want, and I feel that the way we come out of all of this pandemic, the protests, trying to fight for social justice is going to determine and reflect on how we vote. So it is important to do that at this time. And then, like I said, it's never been easier. So you can request your ballot online on voting.nyc. You can go there, request it online. The Board of Elections also has a phone number and an email. And what we have really seen is that there is an interest in doing this. So if you're registered to vote, there's never been a better time to get involved and make sure that you create that long-lasting impact across the city.
There you go. So that absentee ballot, you got to go online to get that, or in most cases that's sent to your home, and you have to put down that maybe you're ill or something like that.
Yeah, so you'll request the absentee ballot, and you can have it sent the ballot to a different address. We understand some people might be displaced at this moment, and then you will put in their temporary illness as your excuse, because it will ask you for an excuse. So you will use that as part of the reason why you're voting via absentee, and then you will receive a ballot. The ballot, Bob, has a long list of instructions and places where signatures need to be, and particularly on the envelope. It's going to tell you to use a blue or a black pen. And so you want to be able to sit down, go through all the instructions, because when you're voting by mail, while it is easy and on your own time, there are instructions to follow the process so that your vote can be counted. And if one of those steps is missed, it could cause for your vote not to be counted.
Is that part of your voter guide?
Yeah, so you can go on voting.nyc. Our voter guide is available. There is an FAQ available for you to clearly understand how to be able to vote via absentee or in-person early voting or on election day. But more importantly, also all the offices are there and who is running. And one of the things that we are really calling out right now to elected officials, because we do post on there, what is it that candidates are running on? So today we're asking
that's great.
to share on their social media and plan to address these issues while they're in office. And we want them to tag us and use hashtag NYC Voter Guide, because we can't cover all the issues, but we want to know where people stand.
Yeah, you got to go into it knowing what you're doing. You want some information. So when we did that march on Washington with all of the students, and they were on stage talking about REV. And I thought they were going to rev something up on stage, but REV stood for register, educate, and vote. Register, you got to make sure you're registered, and you got to educate yourself to the issues and educate other people around you, and then vote.
Yeah.
Because it's so important. It's like more important now than ever before. And some people say, oh, you guys always say that, but it's always been important, but you just got to know what it is.
So we got the registration pretty down packed in New York City. We have very high voter registration, but we have very low voter turnout, specifically in the Bronx. The Bronx has the lowest voter turnout amongst young people and all ages. So we definitely have the voter registration. You know, we're tugging along. There are some challenges right now with not having online voter registration, but voter and that education piece, like you said, is very key. After you submit your absentee ballot, you can just send that link to people so that they can request theirs. It's very easy to do, right? But it takes someone to kind of walk you through that. Voting as a whole hasn't always been easy, and so people are just intimidated or they don't really know what to expect. So just having those conversations, that education piece is really important to get to that vote piece.
Yeah, and people need to step up, take charge of your household, because you're a leader, and you got to realize the power that you have in exercising your right to vote.
The deadline did pass for the primaries. You should still register today. Like if you are moved by something, if you want to create change, you should register today so that you don't have to worry about it over the summer. We can't lose track of our elections, even if times feel a little odd or different or crazy at times. It's important now more than ever, because we see the effects of past election choices and the reactions that it's had in these crises. So part of that is to make sure we don't lose track of it. So if you're watching this and you're not registered to vote, it is never too late. You can register, vote in November. And if you're not registered and you know people who are registered now, encourage them to vote for the primary.
There you go. And they can go to voting.nyc.org for more information.
Just voting.nyc. And all our tools and guidance are there to be able to help New Yorkers to build their overall political power, making sure that they're registered to vote, making sure that they get out to vote, making sure that we are giving them the right information so that on election day, they're ready, so that they're ready to go, if they go early voting, or if they're doing this early voting or via absentee. And like I said, in particularly when we're talking about voting, the presidential election is 1 year where everyone comes out. We want people to get started now so that next year we're going to have over 500 candidates running in New York City. Everyone is fully aware of that process and they can exercise what the city is really going to shape into.
Yeah, excellent. Sabrina, thank you so much. Everybody moving together in the same direction for a common cause. I use that all the time. Let's do it. Sabrina Castillo, Director of Partnerships and Outreach, New York City Campaign Finance Board. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We appreciate you. You are a wealth of information. We appreciate your service. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Yes. Thank you. All right. We'll take a break. I've got more right here on Open. Don't go anywhere. Coming up next.